video world? This is Charles at Willis Racing. I was working on an engine, and in the video I said that there was a internal filter inside of your typical inline four motorcycle engine. I was making that statement in reference definitely to a Suzuki Hayabusa engine, because there's an external oil filter that is changed, and then there's a internal oil filter that has it's really the internal oil pickup, and you'll see it. It's a big black plastic piece that actually sits down in the oil pan, and it's basically like a sub pump for your engine. That pickup really sucks up the oil and sends that oil back into the engine. Well, there's a filter up inside there, and any particles that went down into your oil filter or came out of your engine that would go down in that well in your oil pan, there's possibility that that pickup can pick it up and suck it up back into your engine, and there's a filter in that pickup to stop that from happening. When we take apart a lot of motors, when I get those motors apart, that pickup sometimes is full of junk that it has picked up over the years of riding. So it would be a good thing to have that thing cleaned out. Now, that individual also said that they would never purchase a vehicle that was used as a race vehicle. And I typed back and I asked him, well, what made him come to that conclusion? He said that, well, it was a race vehicle, it ain't taken care of. It's been what some people consider or say dogged out, used and abused, whatever. And so I'm making this video because I'm going to show him something, or show people something. A reason why I would say, if someone told me that, I would have a different opinion of someone saying a race vehicle is just as good or better than a vehicle that, especially when it comes to engine, transmission, rear ends, different type of things, aspects, chains, sprockets. I would say all of my stuff on my race bike is better quality, better made than what came from the factory on that bike, and more durable, will last longer, the works. And so I'm gonna prove that point right now, basically, just in reference to an engine though. So when that person said that they wouldn't buy an engine or a vehicle that was used for racing for somebody, or someone rather, my answer to him was again that I believe that if I went and was in search of a vehicle, a racing vehicle or a particular vehicle, I'm just going to say, if I was in search of a Hayabusa and the gentleman said, I pulled up to his driveway and he had his lawn maintained, and I looked, he had a Chevy Camaro there, new, used, whatever, but that thing was immaculate. And I walked around and I could tell by looking at everything that he had around just his general house, everything, everything looked the way it's supposed to look. Now, not meaning that a guy or a person you pull up and they say, well, hey, it looks like a junkyard. Not meaning that, because even that person, he may have a home that looks like it's about ready to fall down and hadn't cut the grass in 3 weeks. But if you open up his garage door and he got a 1957 Chevy in there that is covered up, and you don't know it until he takes off the cover, and that thing is spotless, and then you look and he's got a newer, say one of these Cadillac V's sitting there that he drives around his personal car, and it looks immaculate. Well, he might not cut his grass as often as you would think he should, or paint his house as often as you think he should, but I bet you that oil and everything has changed in those cars. So I'm saying that to say that if you see what we call motorhead people and they had a vehicle that they were racing, you can bet that that's probably a good vehicle and it was well maintained. And we as racers, we know we can look at parts that had been changed out from factory parts to what we call race parts. And we know immediately by looking at some of those parts that that's a $100 part. This boy didn't, it didn't matter to him when he was spending money putting these cars or these motorcycles together. Them the right parts on there. He spent the right money and got those parts on there, and that thing is right. Now, I'm saying that because of this. I think that fella was wrong for saying, hey, I won't buy a race engine if somebody, car, vehicle, truck, whatever, because somebody was racing it. I think the reverse. If you go and you see things being maintained like that, you can bet that race vehicle that fella had was maintained like that, in the same manner. Now, I'll get to where I'm at now. I just was at the auction. I purchased a 2014 Suzuki Hayabusa. The speedometer said 6,000 miles. When I normally purchase a bike that have an intent on reselling, I normally will go through the whole entire motorcycle. That's what I'm doing to this motorcycle. This motorcycle, the mileage on it said it had 6,000 miles, a little over 6,000 miles, and the motorcycle itself was clean. And I was able to bid on the thing and get it at the right price. We're going to the auction to make money. I was able to bid on it, get it at the right price where I could sell it right, and at the same time afford to do whatever maintenance I think that it would need to be up to par. So this engine is out of a 6,000 mile 2014 Hayabusa. Now, just by looking at the oil on this engine, which I'm going to show you. Let me see if, make sure we got the, I'm going to zoom in where the oil filter goes on this engine. All right. That's where the oil filter goes on this particular engine. All right. Stick a white piece of cloth in there and have it pick up. the oils. See, make sure this is in the video. You see that? You see how dirty that oil is in there? And that vehicle only had 6,000 miles on it. What I'm trying to prove to that person is this vehicle's only at 6,000 miles. And the oil is that dirty. Now I know for a fact that would mean that this oil had never been changed in this particular bike. Never. There's no way. My oil in my race bikes get changed normally every week that I use it. And what I mean is, if I have a race this weekend at the racetrack or wherever, when I come back from that race, I'm changing the oil on my motors. Number one reason is I change my oil on the motor. I want good clean, 100% clean, that every time I take it to race. The other reason I do it is because I could look at the oil, and then I also will take the oil pan off. So I just purchased this bike, and when I went to change the oil in it, it was so dirty, I decided I have a reputation of selling good vehicles that don't have any problems. I stand behind what I sell. I started to change the oil on this bike, and the oil was so dirty, I said, there's no way that I'm gonna sell it. It didn't have any problems. I rode it, shifted fine, didn't have any problems. But there's still no way I'll sell it without going inside this engine and also changing out this internal filter that is inside this motor. This is why, to me, somebody taking care of a race engine and them maintaining it correctly, that motor is 100% better than a motor that some common person was just out here running up and down the highway, and they're saying, oh, it's a good engine, it's this, it's that, it's never been raced, it's always been taken care of. Baloney. I'd rather have somebody say, hey, we take this to the racetrack all the time. It's been this, it's been that. Here's the paperwork. Here's what's in the motor. It's this, 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 and this, and this. And I mean, what can you say? I'm not saying buy race engines or motors or anything from anybody. What I'm saying is to that gentleman that made that typed that statement to me, and it's really, I'm doing this really for him. I'm going to show you what happens to an engine that a common person may have, that it's a high performance vehicle, and anybody with a high performance vehicle, whether it's a car or whether it's a motorcycle, they are going to run that vehicle up in the higher RPMs. They're going to run that vehicle up in the higher speeds than your normal average person. That's fine if they're going to maintain it like race car, like race motorcycle owners do. We maintain it. But you got guys out here that are driving Hayabusas for motorcycles, GSXRs, BMW 1000RRs, whatever. People out here driving brand new Corvettes. You can look right now and see there's some people that got brand new Corvettes. This last C8 model already got 50,000 miles on the car. Do you think a lot of them change that oil on that car every 3,000 miles? I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously, because they're not a racer. They see no harm in taking the vehicle out there and running it to death, going up and down the street, spinning the tires on it, doing whatever. They see no harm in that. I don't either. That's what the thing was designed for. The difference between me being a racer and them being just your normal average citizen with a high performance car, they are not maintaining that car. That high performance car, they are not maintaining it. Like me as a racer, I'm maintaining it every week. Every week. If I race my bike 52 weeks a year, that bike is going to have 52 oil changes. That's just the way it is. I won't know if anything's going wrong with the motor unless I change the oil. And here, I'm going to show you this right now. So I seen that this engine oil was that dirty. I was like, well, it's the whole engine's got to be that dirty then. So I took the oil filter off. And let me back this camera out so you can see. I took the external oil filter off, which the external oil filter set right here. This is actually the oil pan. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. Matter of fact, let me get some more light. And put some more light on this motor. There we go. That a little bit better? Let me look at it and see. Yes, that's a little bit better. Get this motor. So this is this is where the external oil filter set. And when I saw this so cheap oil filter, that's not the factory filter. So somebody did change the filter, but you can tell it's been on there for a long time. And that's why I say, if this bike only has 6,000 miles, it was a hard 6,000 miles, because this was just your normal average citizen that had a high-powered motorcycle, and they used it high-power wise, but they didn't maintain it. So now I am going to check this whole motorcycle out, because I purchased it, like I say, at an auction, and I normally I guarantee my motorcycles to work efficiently. And so I will pull a motor out of a motorcycle, no problem, and go through the entire engine if I have to, and then put it back in, because I know then that it's right. So I've done pulled the external filter again. Now I'm gonna take this, I done loosened this up. So this is the oil pan that I'm taking off now. And as you can see, I drained this oil already. This motorcycle has been drained of oil, but as you can see from that internal filter, matter of fact, is it on the video? Can we see it? No. Let me get it on here. Get it down to my hand here. Boy, I'm not the video king, but Lord have mercy. There it is. All right. So I took the oil filter off, and there's the oil filter. And I had already drained all the oil out this motorcycle. But that filter that is normally up inside the engine, and hold on, let me put this oil pan down. I don't want it to spill out. I want everybody to see how dirty that thing is. And I am going to put this camera, lower it down here, where we can see up inside of this motor. Where's my motor at? Right there. All right. So I'm hoping that everybody can see that. It's kind of hard for me to get behind the camera and look at the same time, but see my finger there? Matter of fact, give me a little pointer here so my finger won't be in the way. See that right there? That there's that internal pickup on a Hayabusa motor. When oil comes in, it fills up the oil pan, which is sitting on the bottom. This sucks the oil back up. The oil pump draws oil up through this. So the oil pump is pumping. When that oil is, this is the oil return. This line, this little bitty tube, that's the oil return. It fills up the oil pan. This tube here is a return. Oil pump sucking through here. Sucks the oil back up. That oil then goes back into the engine. All right. Now, as you can see, when I took that oil pan off, that oil pan was just about empty. As far as me draining it, it was empty. It had stopped draining. But since sitting overnight, you see that oil pan? Yep, I got it in there. So sitting overnight, oil now has continued to run down, and then it ran also out this oil return back into the pan, but also out of here. All the oil that was stuck up inside of here that had went up into the journals inside the motor, it all drained back into this pan. This is the oil pan. Now, I think I'll raise this up because if I tilt the pan. Now, here's what I want you to see is, look how dirty this oil is. And the pan itself, everything. But this bike said it only had 6,000 miles. Look at that oil in there. That is terrible. And I can tell you right now, I know none of oil in any of my race bikes has never looked like that. Look at this stuff. I'm gonna pour it. I'm gonna let some of it pour up out of here. I'm gonna let all of it actually pour up out of here. But pouring it out, you will actually see how dirty. Look how dirty that stuff is. Look at that. Now, oil in my race bike has never looked like that. Look at it. See? So now you can see all the stuff that has accumulated in the bottom of that oil pan. And I'm hoping right now, see all them little spotty, I'm hoping that's just oil and air bubbles down in there. Because if that stuff is any type of metal, that means I got to tear this whole motor down and probably replace every bearing in this thing. But it looks like, I got to look at this real good. Good Lord. Hold on. So let me get a good look at this thing here. I ain't got time to be playing with no video now. Make sure this stuff is good. All right. All right. So this is what we would do with a race engine. And this is why a race engine is so, all right, that's not no metal. Whew. I got worried when I saw all of that. It's just gunk. It's just bad. That made me worried when I saw that, but it's not any metal in there, so that means my motor is good. I'll have to just clean it out and get all that gunk, get all this nasty oil and stuff up out of here. But as far as looking at my oil pan now, so that's why I do that, because now I know my motor, and I'm gonna zoom in here because I'm getting ready to take that oil pickup off. So some people won't know what they're looking at here, but hopefully they do. Some will. But yeah, so now there's no metal, no nothing in that oil pan. Now you gotta realize, this is what we do, or this is what I do. This is what I do on my race bikes probably every weekend. If it's one of my bigger bikes, every weekend. When I'm done with the race, this is what happens. On my street bikes, I do it by the runs. Or I do it by how many runs we have put on the motorcycle. But if I go 2 weeks of racing back to back, it does not matter. My bikes are not gonna go through 3 weeks of racing and the oil has not been changed in it or something look at. It's not gonna happen. That's why race vehicles are so good. We can't afford to have a race vehicle. The parts are so expensive, we can't afford to have one break and tear up other parts of the motor. It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to just to go ahead and change everything out. So, okay. So this is the oil return, and this is that oil pickup. I'm gonna take that pickup out of there real quick. Okay, I'm gonna go take the return out of there too. Return out of there. And then I'm gonna see how dirty this pickup is. See if we got anything in that. See if we got anything that looks bad. Can we see that on the video? It's kind of hard when you're doing all this by your. Well, yeah, it's kind of hard when you're doing this by yourself. But anyway, that's that oil pickup. I'm gonna try to show, and I'm happy as a butterfly. I'm as happy as a butterfly already. I hope this is good as what I look, because hopefully I'm cleaning this out. Okay, so this is what that pickup looks like in the bottom of that oil pan in a Hayabusa motor. See that pickup? And this is what I was worried about. Can you see down in there? Let me give me a flashlight. Flashlight. You see that? You see down in there now? Look at that screen. Ooh, that screen is clean. So I believe, oh yeah, that screen is clean down in there. Yep, just put me oh yeah, that thing's clean. So what I see now is that this motor just hadn't been having oil changes. This motor is a clean motor. They just have not been getting. They just haven't been doing the regular, normal oil changes that should be done. But the motor's a lot cleaner than what I thought it was gonna be. So I am happier than a camper. I'm gonna get this motor, get everything cleaned up on it, everything checked on it. Now, something that I do know though, and I know that just by looking at this engine. I'm gonna zoom in on it because I can see it now by looking in the bottom of it. Okay. Should be my flashlight do it good enough right there. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, we can see it. This motor at 6,000 miles, now you got to remember, I'm going to keep saying that. It's 6,000 miles, or that's what the odometer was reading, okay? For this motorcycle. And it's a clean motorcycle, but in 6,000 miles, something has happened to this motor before. Let me get me I gotta get me a brighter light. So I'm happy with the screens on it now. I'm happy with the motor. I was worried when I seen how dirty this engine was on the inside as far as looking at the oil, because I knew right then that it had not had maintenance, but it looks like it's there's nothing in the oil pan that would indicate that the motor had any problems or is having any problems, so I'm happy with that. But Let me see. Now you see that light on that motor. Yeah, we got some light on that motor. This motor has been serviced before. It has been out of this bike. And I know what it was for because I can see now. Because I can see up in it and I can see the transmission. And I know that it's had a transmission replaced now by looking at the transmission and looking at this right here. You see where I'm scraping that off? That is not the factory. It's not the factory lube. That's where the cases have been split before. And somebody they didn't put Yama bond or the right bonding on there. They put the regular old silicone that you would use from AutoZone, Walmart. You just go in there and say, hey, I want some red or some high-tip silicone. That's what that is. That's not the correct silicone to use to seal a motor back up. Because this here is where the cases are split, and actually it's sitting metal, it's sitting aluminum on aluminum, and they've got a case sealant for aluminum cases. So a lot of people have never heard of it. Actually, somebody wrote me and sent me a message about that. So this is the first time I'll show you exactly what it is, exactly what a tube of it is, and I'll show you what somebody is using. Someone, make sure I still got this thing in video, yeah. Matter of fact, I can back it out now a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit there. So, this is a lowercase, uppercase. Someone took these cases apart because I looked up in there and it's a new, I could tell, it's a new transmission and they've undercut it. So that means this bike has lost second gear. In the process of however really many miles it's got on it, I do believe that this motor has more than 6,000 miles, okay? That's number one. I believe that probably now why it was in the auction, the reason being that it was in the auction, this motor was put back together. Correction, this bike was rebuilt. It's got a good clean title, but this bike, I don't know, it could have been wrecked at one time. I really don't know. But I do know this for a fact. The cases have been split apart to put a transmission. And what they used, what this mechanic used, he used this, anything. What you can get from, see that stuff there? That's what they use. And that's the wrong sealer for these cases. That's the wrong stuff. That's why it's all popped out. Because what happens is, when I seen that, now this is one of the reasons why I pulled out that inside engine pickup. Because if it's smashed, and you see how you can just peel it off if you want to. So if it's smashed up like this on the outside of the case, it's also on the inside of the case. Matter of fact, I probably can I reach up there and get me a piece of it? Let's see if I can reach it. If it's out. Yeah. Well, long story short, I can't get it, but I could see some of it. So now, say this piece that I'm playing with here now. See how it was easy to get hot and whatever? Well, now if it breaks off and it falls off, guess where that falls at? Once it falls, just like it did there, if it's on the inside of my engine, it falls down into my oil pan. Then what happens? Once the oil is getting sucked up, that piece will be floating around on that oil and it'll get sucked up right in here and it would end up in this screen up in here, stuck. So now you can see, that's why I took that off. These cases has been apart and for the transmission. This bike has lost second gear and somebody put a new second gear in it. So You know what that tells me about this bike? Just like I was telling you, a normal average citizen had this bike, running the hell out of it. All right? And it broke. And by looking at the paperwork, now I remember it wasn't. I don't think that this bike was in an accident. I think when I got the bike at the auction, we couldn't get the rear seat off of it. Some kind of way the rear seat under which is really the glove compartment down in there. Well, once I got it back to the shop, I got the real seat off of it, and I got the owner's paper and the bank paperwork from under there. And they had a little letter there that it was behind. So them being in the rears on the bike, probably the bike ended up being a repo. And so bank probably had it at the auction. And this is a good sign of somebody that has, they bought something high powered, something high performance, and now they financially really can't fix it or do anything with it because they just they financially just cannot maintain it. And this transmission in this bike, they were running the hell out of it and lost the transmission in it and had to replace it. So what I'm going to do is I know the motor's good, everything looks good on it, but I'm going to pull this whole motor back off, and I'm going to do it the right way, because I look at if whoever was doing it and they done it and left this here out here, then because I can't sell this bike, I'm in fear of putting this bike back together, putting this engine back in the bike. I'm in fear then that if I sell it, I already know the customer that I'm going to sell it to, the type of customer I'm going to sell it to. They are going to go out there and get on this thing. They're going to run this thing. That's what our customers do, is go and run these bikes. So I need to look at the transmission and see everything that was done to it. So that's what I'm going to do. So long story short, this turned out great, because this is an example of a citizen that went and purchased a high dollar, high value, high maintenance vehicle, and they probably couldn't afford to do all the maintenance and do all the upkeep and everything that it needed to have. This was just a prime example. So now it's perfect for what I was saying. I'll buy a motor from somebody that knows vehicles, that's been racing vehicles, that's whatever else, before I buy anything from a lot of common citizens that just said, hey, I can go out here, I have the money, and go out and buy, like I said, a Corvette. And when it all goes sour, you're driving around in a $100,000 car now that you can't afford to take in, get the oil change, do any service updates, doing anything on it, because it's just too high dollar to do. And you drive it until you drive it in the ground, or it ends up being repoed just like this. I believe this here now, from looking at that paperwork, I believe it was just a repo, and you end up having a repo, and then boom, somebody like me will come along and because we're buying stuff at the auction all the time, and buy something. And so now, just like I say, I've got to go through this. I'm going to go through this motor actually, because I know whoever I end up selling it to, they are going to run this thing, and it has. I have to be able to say that it's right. So, needless to say, that's it. That's it for this video. I like what I see, and this is gonna be easy. This is gonna be easy to tear this down and look at all the bearings and look at the transmission and see what they done. And I'll put this back together. Oh, but before I go, I'll do this the right way. Remember me? I showed you this stuff. Don't put your motor back together with this stuff. It's made for your 72 Pinto, made for your tractor, your lawnmower, your I don't know, stuff like that. Now, I mean, you could use it on vehicles, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say that I haven't used this on. What did I use it on? Oh, back in the day, I had a Ford Galaxy 500. I'd use this on that. But to put the engine together right, this is the right stuff for putting those cases together. And I'll make it close enough. See if I can get it close enough. That's what it's called. Now, why they call it Yamabond, I don't know, but Yamaha's on the bottom of it, so I guess Yamaha uses Yamabond. I've never seen Suzuki Bond. I've never seen Kawasaki Bond, but whatever. But this stuff right here, this stuff goes on nice, neat, and clean, and your cases do not leak with this stuff. So this is what I use on my cases. Yamabond. Let's see, was there anything else? No, I think that was it. I'm gonna get this motor down out of here and put this thing in my engine stand, and I'm actually gonna do that when I turn this video off. I've done enough transmission videos, because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull the transmission up out of here. Take me about an hour, pull that transmission up out of there, and I'm gonna look at that thing. So anyway, if that helps somebody out, if you need to change that filter thing, that pickup filter. A lot of people didn't know it was a screen. That was the main thing I was trying to show is a lot of people didn't know it was a screen or a filter in there. That sometimes you could, get something in it, because just like that, if this Yamabond, if enough of it would have broke off the motor, that Yamabond would have been in here. It would have got in this thing and started to clog it up. And you don't need that to happen, because there's the pickup, your main pickup for your oil going back into your engine. So anyway, that was Charles at Willis Racing. That helped somebody out. That's my plan. So if you got a problem like that, get your tools out, pull that motor out, and get busy. Bye-bye.